Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. Well, I'm finally getting this up and running. Filling up the barrel now, and as you saw on Sunday, I had put in the coral sand and the coral chunks, and I've already hooked up the pump. Did that off camera. So as soon as I have enough water in this, I am going to plug in the pump and get this circulating, and then let it run for probably a couple of days, and then I'll get some fish in here, and then pretty much the basics for this are done. I mean, this is the pond up and running. It's got lots of light, of course, already. I think it will augment the light later on, but for the moment, it is running. This is the water flow through it. One thing worked out really nicely is the height of this. This turned out perfect, so I'm going to let that run for a little while, see how that... plastic, when you first put water in it, is kind of iffy, so I'm going to see how that runs in a few days. This is a bonus. This turned out to be at the perfect height, even though I didn't plan it. So I should be able to collect a fair number of eggs, and hopefully all that will work out as well. So what's left now is hooking up a system for the immersed plants. Now, I've been doing a lot of work with immersed plants in the last little while, but even still, I didn't really want to take all the acrylic it's going to take to put one across the entire back right from one go. Like, just do it now and be done with it, because I may not like how it flows, and I don't really want to have to try and break apart and recycle all that acrylic. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make it in 6-inch segments. So this is, if you imagine the table surface as the back of the pond, that large piece is going to be up the back, and then these two uprights are going to act as stilts, and they're going to hold an elevated section of, well, this part here up above the bottom of the pond, and allow me to have a good amount of gravel in it. And I'm going to put a temporary spray bar system on this now, just to test it out, see how the holes work, and the spacing and all that sort of stuff. But when I start going to the process of making more of these, so I like them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, obviously, one full spray bar for the entire thing, and then it will be a much more even flow. One of the odd things I noticed when I was doing it this way, because normally when I weld acrylic, you always have a square edge to work on, but because this is floating up in the middle, I had to use a set square here to make sure it was good and square before I welded it in place, because there's no other reference. You have the bottom of this is just on the side. Like, the part that's on the table right now is just sitting there, so there's no reference there for it. And so instead of building a separate jig, I just use the set square to make sure I have everything exactly where I want it to before I weld it in place. So that makes it much simpler. So this just slides up there, I weld it in place, and the holes you see there are going to be at the bottom of this little planter pot, and that's where the water is going to go back into the tank. And there's going to be, you can see a bit of a gap between the top of this one, which is to the left at this point, and then the back, at the upper left there, is where it's going to be against the wall. So there's going to be a gap there where I can put a spray bar, which is going to allow me to, obviously, water this thing without having to actually do anything. I wanted to do it this way because this gives me the maximum amount of usage without taking too much in the way of tank space up. If I had made it an entire solid box and put gravel all the way through it, there might be a bit of issue with anaerobic stuff at the bottom, but I wasn't too concerned about that as much as I was concerned about taking out way too much of the tank space. I know the pond's quite large, but I thought it was kind of senseless to go in and needlessly use up a lot of the internal volume when something like this would work just as fine. So this is almost done now. It's a simple matter of welding on the last side and getting it set in there. The hard part, and the part that I actually, believe it or not, did mostly off camera, was the spray bar, because I wanted to try a few things out. Once I put this in, I had the water flow into it, and then I put a spray bar on and fiddled it with it a little bit, took it out, adjusted it, and I said that was kind of like small finicky work. It wasn't really anything to show you other than the fact that it was, like I said, little bits and pieces are being shaved off. I will go through some of the details of it as I hook it up here, but it's going to be replaced anyway. I'm not welding it on. It's just going to sit across the top arms of this box. So that way, like I said, I can test it out, and then I can take it off, maybe adjust holes or close holes up, that sort of stuff, And over the next week or so, I can decide how I'm actually going to end up doing this. If I like this style, like if this box here works out well, then it'll just be a simple matter of knocking off 2 or 3 more of these, and I will be able to then make a spray bar that will cover the whole thing. One of the benefits of this, even though it does seem needlessly taking up a fair amount of time and working probably a little bit more into it than I need to, in the future, when I decide I want to replant something, because they're all done individually and in segments here, I can just pull one out, clean it up a little bit, and then I can do whatever I want with it and put it back in. Or, of course, I can adjust how they are all fitting in the order. I mean, sometimes when you grow plants, you'll end up with one that's doing really well, and if it tends to be like in the middle, it could overshadow a bunch of the other ones, and you end up with, stunting some of the other plants. So this way I can take it and move it to the end. Just the ability to shuffle things around, I think, is worth it. And again, as I said in the beginning of this, having made a few projects and then had to change my mind about them, building it all at once just can have the possibility, I guess, of wasting a lot of acrylics. So this, again, answers that problem as well. There you go. This is pretty much done now. So I'm going to throw this in the aquarium, see what it looks like, make sure it sits properly, and then we'll show you the spray bar as well, and we'll go over some of the details of that. But I suspect the thing that's going to probably change the most about this whole setup is going to be the spray bar system, because that is pretty much how this is all going to get watered, so, and how much water it's going to get. And also the other thing I forgot to mention, because these are done individually, I can have them either deeper in the pond or more shallow in the pond. So I could possibly also grow some plants that don't necessarily want their roots as wet. So here you go. Quite straightforward, very simple setup. I'm not sure why I actually added the extra height to that on the back, but it may come in handy later on for other things. So these 3 simple little pieces are going to be the spray bar. I drilled some holes, and so what I've done here now is you'll notice that one of them is a little higher than the other because I don't want any splashing going towards the wall, and the other one I adjusted so that it is hopefully going to allow water to get up to the holes. And then I ran the whole thing through the saw, as you can see, to make sure it was good and flat, so that I can just slide it up against the back of the planter pot, and it will allow water to go through it without me having to weld it in place, which is the key here. So this has been sitting here for a few minutes now, and usually it just fills up, and then it'll just empty out. And this is going to be how the spray bars are going to work. They're just going to sit in there like this, and it's going to fill up, of course, and then that water's going to drip in. There's going to be gravel in there, plants, and of course there'll be a pot to the left, another, and another, and another, depending on how this all works out. So let me know in the comments section below what you think of this, and like I said, I'm going to let this run as is like this for a little while, make sure the water has gotten rid of all that hydrophobic aspect to the plastic gone, and then we'll see how it all sets up. And then I will add gravel and a plant, and we'll gradually add this and get it going. So there you go. Let me know what you think, and we'll see how this I'm not too concerned about how this is going to go, but it's always a good idea. I think it might need to be a little bit deeper, but who knows. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.